Opinion: what Henry Kissinger never understood. CNN: his life was as improbable as it was sequential. Henry Kissinger was born in a small Jewish ghetto in a small town, Fürth, in Germany. His grandparents were murdered by the Nazis and he barely escaped. Henry, his father, mother, and brother fled to New York in late 1938. They never wanted to leave Germany, but they had no choice. Like so many other refugees, they were unprepared for their new home. So like adolescent, 15-year-old 15-year-old Henry did not speak any English and he had few prospects. He attended public high school in Manhattan, worked evenings to help keep his family fed, and prepared to become an accountant. It was the reasonable aspiration for the Jewish immigrant in New York. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and the American entrance into the Second World War changed Kissinger as it changed the United States. He joined the army, leaving his Orthodox, kosher home for the first time. He went back to Germany, now as a part of the American occupying force, and that is how his career really began, one that would be defined by his identity as the cosmopolitan, wise man and his lifelong pursuit of power, and one that would mark the America and the world in lasting, controversial ways. American leaders were desperate for talented young men who knew German society but had an attachment to the United States. Kissinger was the fortunate fit. Although he looked and sounded German as he would for the rest of his life, his Jewish background meant he would never sympathize with the Nazis. Americans could trust him. He stayed in the army an extra year after the war, working to create a new American influence in Germany, a foundation for the post-war order in Europe. Army recommendations and GI Bill gave Kissinger a chance to attend Harvard University as the older undergraduate, unthinkable before the war due to his refugee experience, his Jewishness, and his lack of wealth, among other reasons. Harvard connected Kissinger to the new generation of the European em- emigre students and scholars, committed to helping the United States lead the world and prevent another totalitarian regime, this time in the Soviet Union, from destroying civilization. This became Kissinger's lifelong mission, using power to promote the United States and himself as the bulwark against the obvious, light amidst what he saw as the creeping darkness. His pessimism about the threat to humanity, especially in the nuclear world, made him desperate for American dominance. The United States would use its strength to stop any apocalypse. Kissinger never joined the Foreign Service, but he saw the intersection between diplomacy and military affairs as the place to make a lasting difference. After Harvard, Kissinger rose fast to the height of power, and he never left, because this mission resonated with the president, business leaders, and so many others. Kissinger worked tirelessly in his pursuit. As the scholar of war and diplomacy, he strived to strengthen the American-led Western alliance in Europe, nurturing the military, economic, and diplomatic cooperation among the key leaders in each capital. as President Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford chief foreign policy aide. He expanded his canvas to China and the Middle East, among many other places. Kissinger opened the first direct relations between the United States and Communist China, giving Washington the clear advantage over Moscow in Asia as Soviet relations in the region deteriorate. After the 1973 war between Israel and its Arab neighbors, Kissinger made the United States the key extra actor in that region, the largest source of aid and military assistance to Israel, Egypt, and other states willing to work closely with Washington and sideline Moscow. Kissinger was always a refugee, always conscious that he had come to the United States fleeing massive atrocities. He condemned those who believed the United States could somehow perfect human beings. Kissinger described the Wilsonian uh, ideo- idealistic impulse as naive and dangerous. The hate, the violence always shadowed his views of society. Kissinger wanted to use American power as the better alternative, a lesser evil, for salvaging the best of humanity and limiting the damage from human frailty and flaws. That calculus drove him to dark places. That is how he sought to justify intense bombing of Vietnam and Cambodia during the Vietnam War, killing some innocent people. He claimed to prevent what he viewed as the far greater suffering that accompanied communist tyranny. That is also how he explained U.S. support for repressive regimes in Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and other parts of South America. And that is how he rationalized diplomatic favoritism for dictatorships in Iran, Egypt, South Korea, Indonesia, and Pakistan that offered stability. Kissinger contended rather than the chaos and the strife of societies he deemed ill prepared for democracy. He underlined worthwhile mission went too far, producing in Vietnam, Latin America, and Iran some of the very nightmares he sought to prevent. Too much American power and too much support for anti-communist strongman brought his own form of apocalypse. The death, destruction, and suffering in each of these societies were incontrovertible evidence of this fact. The intense protest in the United States against Kissinger's policies and the anger expressed towards him, even in death, showed how his unwavering commitment to American power often harmed the people that power was meant to serve. Kissinger's life was therefore a parable of progress and the tragedy of avarice at the same time. He pro- he proudly lived in the American dream. He made the world safer for millions of people like himself. Kissinger also imbibed self-righteousness and obsession with power that distorted, distorted his perspective. For all his intelligence, he never understood how deeply American power could threaten and harm people who stood in its way. For better and worse, Kissinger's life was the story of American power in the last century. That is why he matters so much. His death offers the opportunity for reflection on what American power had done and what it might become.